Hey everyone, let's jump right into this explainer. Today, we're breaking down India's strategic roadmap and their major transition toward the 2027 ODI World Cup. Following some truly spectacular recent successes, this team is entering a fascinating evolutionary phase. We're going to dig into the data, the underlying strategies, and the huge personnel changes that are going to define this next cycle of Indian cricket. Here's our roadmap for today. We'll be looking at their stellar 2025 season, the changing eras in leadership, a total middle order revolution, the future of their fast bowling, depth in the spin department, and finally, what the blueprint looks like for South Africa. Part 1, a stellar 2025 season and setting the baseline. Okay, so the most important thing to look at first is this massive number right here, 11. Out of 14 ODI matches played in 2025, India walked away with 11 victories, including taking home the biggest title of the year, the Champions Trophy. This isn't just a good year, it's a completely dominant one. And that incredible win rate gives team management a massive cushion of confidence as they start experimenting with their lineups. That is a staggering 79% win rate. And as you can see, they only had 3 minor stumbles all year. Consecutive away losses in Australia, and dropping just 1 game at home to South Africa. But you know what? Those rare defeats are absolutely crucial because they're exactly what's driving the tactical tweaks we're about to dive into. Which brings us to part 2, leadership, changing eras, and the succession loop. Notice the deliberate chronological rotation happening here. Rohit Sharma obviously led the squad to that Champions Trophy win, right? But then, immediately, the reins were handed over to Shubman Gill for the Australia tour, and then to KL Rahul for the South Africa series. This is a highly calculated succession loop. Management, with Gautam Gambhir now locked in as the all-format head coach until 2027, is clearly building tactical contingency plans well before the veteran players completely phase out. And honestly, no one is guaranteed a spot in 2027, not even the absolute legends. Selection is strictly tied to individual form and fitness now. Just listen to Virat Kohli's mindset during this transition. He said, "If I am made to feel like I need to prove my worth and my value, I'm not in that space." He knows exactly what his value is, but he's also acknowledging that the environment is aggressively looking toward the future.
All right, part 3, the middle order revolution and shedding top order dependency.
For years, India's strategy heavily leaned on their top 3 batters. But check out this data shift. Players like Shreyas Iyer and KL Rahul have completely transformed what used to be a notoriously fragile middle order. We've literally gone from World Cup averages in the high 30s all the way up to a commanding average near 50 in recent tournaments. They've finally built a truly reliable engine room.
However, it's not totally bulletproof yet. Analysts at Weavino have identified something they call a wavelength gap. Basically, when pressure-tested finishers are resting or get dropped, a tactical void opens up in the lower middle order that opponents can easily exploit. Think about it. If you don't have an XR Patel or a Rishabh Pant coming in ready to clear boundaries from ball 1, there's a massive drop-off in high-pressure finishing capabilities. Moving on to part 4, the fast bowling future, raw pace versus experience.
There is a massive and, quite frankly, high-risk transition happening in the bowling department right now. On one side, you have a battle-tested veteran like Mohammad Shami, armed with 80 death-over wickets and proven overseas success. On the flip side, a completely raw, inexperienced vanguard of new pacers. Since senior pacers are being rested for workload management, India is essentially throwing its young talent straight into the deep end. Management is leaning hard into what's being called a high-pace inoculation strategy. They are actively injecting domestic bowlers capable of extreme speeds into the national setup. We're talking about guys like Mayank Yadav clocking nearly 157 kilometers per hour. Harshid Rana and Prince Yadav are right there too, easily crossing the 150 mark. The strategy is super clear. They're willing to sacrifice a little bit of immediate defensive economy to find bowlers who can extract vicious bounce on flat surfaces. Let's look at part 5, spin depth and flexibility, creating the wicket-taking web. Even when veteran mainstays like Ravindra Jadeja are rested, the current spin department is an absolute masterclass in balancing aggressive wicket-taking potential with suffocating defensive control. You have Kuldeep Yadav bringing that lethal wrist spin threat, while Washington Sundar just completely locks down the run rate. Together, it creates an incredibly potent web during the middle overs. And this whole philosophy of multi-role flexibility, it's really a unified Indian cricket strategy. Just look at this quote from women's captain Harmanpreet Kaur talking about their own spin and depth tactics. She emphasizes having enough bowling options because that flexibility is a lifesaver in ODIs. Across both the men's and women's teams, the goal is to have 6, sometimes even 7 bowling options. So if one bowler's just having a bad day, there are plenty of alternatives ready to step up. Finally, Part 6, the blueprint for South Africa and the road to 2027. Okay, let's evaluate the squad's tactical vulnerability matrix right now. That legacy top order is incredibly secure, rated as low risk. The middle order sits comfortably at medium risk. But the all-rounders, they are firmly high risk right now due to fragile injury histories and conditional fitness. And that raw pace attack we were just talking about, that is a critical risk, simply because it is incredibly untested in those high-pressure death overs. So how do they resolve this? Management has a very clear 3-step plan. Step 1, they'll use a slate of about 20 upcoming ODIs to firmly identify and lock in that core group. Step 2, they're actively testing aggressive power hitters like Sanju Samson and Ishan Kishan, players whose style is absolutely tailor-made for bouncy conditions. And Step 3, everything from that high-pace inoculation of the bowlers to specific batting techniques is being adapted for the fast, bouncy tracks waiting for them in South Africa. Which brings us to the ultimate question. As the old guard potentially makes room for this aggressive new era of fast bowlers, flexible all-rounders, and a highly stable middle order, how confident are you in this 2027 blueprint? It is undeniably a high-risk, high-reward strategy that demands short-term patience for long-term clarity, but will it actually be enough to finally bring the ODI World Cup back to India? That is all for today's Explainer. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll catch you next time as we continue to decode the fascinating world around us. Hey, everyone.